Hi, YouTube. I hope you're all doing good. I am doing okay, not bad. I tried not to do anything yesterday. It didn't work. Today I'm succeeding a little better. And I also see I'm chopping, it looked like I'm chopping my head off. Excuse me, please. Okay, maybe a little better. Well, I think too, after when I uploaded it, even if I look like I'm going like this, it's bugging me. I'll keep going in a second here. Just give me a minute. Okay. Yeah, that's a little better. So yeah, I'm resting today. At least I think I am so far. I might get a little bit done later. I don't know. I'm really trying not to, and it's hard for me to sit still. And then, especially, I'm spring cleaning and I'm in the middle of a lot of things, and it bugs me. But I have to rest my arm. So it's hard. Oh, I've been thinking about everybody's race and gender and cultures and all of this in the world. I think we could really take a example from the French people, not there necessarily because there's no violence. Um, they're not fighting each other. They're protesting against their government. That's what our government in the United States doesn't want anything to do with protesters. They don't seem to have a problem with like BLM or those type of groups, but they seem to have a problem with people protesting and getting together and talking about the issues that are plaguing us, And yeah, they do want us to fight each other. That's not going to happen. Only the crazy people are out there hurting each other, you know. It's not nobody saying, you know what, just a minute. I have gas fumes coming in my window. I'm sure Doug's not doing it on purpose, but ugh, it's not like he's right outside my window pouring gas on the ground or anything, but yeah, I can smell it. I'm just that sensitive to it. So, yeah, well, it's wicked. Just caught a buzz. Gas fume buzz. It's not good. So, yeah, back to what I was saying. They do want us to fight each other, whether it's men pretending to be women and real women or whoever. Like I saw this girl had removed her breasts and all she had by way of clothes, and this was on Facebook, was a sign covering her private parts that said, I don't have to have a penis to be a man. And some man wrote, yeah, you do, you know. So yeah, it's just the difference between what is sane and what is not, you know. It isn't even a matter whether they're good or bad or evil, which I do have a tendency to think that they do fall on the more evil side of the whole scale. But even putting that aside, I'm still not going to fight with anybody unless I'm defending myself. And I've had some amasculine, as in not very masculine men, try to hurt me or actually hurt me, try to take my life. And I've had to fight in my life. But that's why I have spoken up so dramatically about the whole thing. It's maybe if you're a man and you've never been beat up by a woman, I mean really fucking beat, that she's bigger and overpowering you and throwing your ass into the wall and coming to scoop up the remainder so they can stomp the shit out of you. Something like that. And I'm not talking fake wrestling moves or anything. I'm talking broken bones and fractures and shit like that. So if you can say that you've actually had that happen by a woman, then you might be able to understand what I'm talking about. Otherwise, you have no clue, you know, because men can beat on other men. They all have thicker bones, they have thicker skin. Your arms are placed differently into the sockets. Your pelvises are different. Your whole structure is of your bones is different. There's a lot of differences, but they can't. As far as the people that say that they're leading other human beings, they can't define the differences. But isn't it odd that all of a sudden, I mean, all of a sudden, just within a few years here, they've got, um, and this has nothing to do with anybody's gender or race or anything, but they have people of specific colors and specific gender orientations getting together and coming against people that don't want to buy into their sanity. And they're going to tell you that you're insane if you believe in a God that they can't see and refuse to, well, they don't want the life you have, but they don't want you to have the life you have either. So that's where the difference between not wanting to fight and thinking about possibly having to because they don't stop. That's the reality of what's going on. You know, it's not the psychological operations or what may be FF, um, that we see, those types of things. It's not even that. It's the real things going on in the world with people and what's in their minds. But all of a sudden, yep, all of a sudden everybody's fighting each other. And yeah, we've had like racial or culture problems all over the world, but not to this magnitude and not spurred on by mainstream media like highlighting these situations. I mean, it's one thing to report on something that's happening, but it's just like that JonBenét uh, speaker for Biden laying sympathies on this woman that pretended to be a man shooting up children and adults in a Christian academy, and her concerns fall on the person that was mentally insane instead of the people that died. That and there's no apologies in that area with these public officials. They have no scruples when it comes to running over the sane versus the insane. They don't care, you know. So, yeah, it's not a lot I can do about it. It's not a lot any of us can do about it. But one suggestion: stay the heck off the streets and do not get involved or engaged with the mentally ill. That's all you can do. And pray and hope for the best. Like they say, stay prayed up. Well, don't let your mind wander into darkness. It's pretty simple right there. Because you always know your heart will convict you. You don't need um, priests or public officials or anybody else unless you're a child. You need structured leadership from your parents or parent. Yeah, it's pretty crazy stuff going on. Yeah, all of a sudden, all this is just going on. And really, like, even in, I mean, yeah, we've had things in the past like the Rodney King beating out in Los Angeles. Um, there's I watched not only myself, but I watched. It doesn't matter what color I was. The day I heard about it, I was actually around white people, Native American people, and when we heard that, there's several of us that started crying. We're like, "This is just flipping crazy shit right here." You know what we were seeing was unbelievable. You know, I mean, and that was out in Montana, you know. I mean, yeah, I was around some pretty prejudiced people, but I used to not really believe that they were. I don't know why. I really didn't believe it. I thought it was more like just something they said, or maybe because their forefathers and the people they were around, I just thought, well, maybe they'll grow out of it, or I don't know what I was thinking, but I would hear people use racial slurs, and I didn't think it was real. You know what I mean? Because I didn't have that in my heart. So when somebody would say it, because I was raised around some really radical stuff, and I didn't accept it. As a matter of fact, that was the main reason on a specific day I took off. I watched a really good show, or I started watching it. What was it? It was Gabriel. Oh yes, I did watch it. It was pretty good. It was Gabriel. I'm gonna look it up actually. Um, the Saint Gabriel from Russia in I think he was born like 1940, or I can't remember offhand, but they had made him a saint. My life with Saint Gabriel, the Fool for Christ. I'm gonna leave that. I'm gonna actually copy the link and put it there. It's I think about an hour long. Oh no, it isn't. It's only 29 minutes long. It was really interesting. I mean, not that I believe in the Catholic order, but I could really relate to his life. When he was 12, he moved from parish to parish with these monks, and he was a kid, so there was like certain places he wanted to stay at. This one place was just the nuns, and he couldn't stay there. But it's super, super interesting. Uh, his drive. Let me see now. Oh, no, no, no. Is that the right? No, that was the wrong one. I watched two of them. I am going to leave the longer one. Sorry about that. It's called Cloaked in Faith. Okay, just a second. The Life of Saint Gabriel, the Fool for Christ. That was the whole one. It was really, really well done. And it gives you some history of like what Russia was like during World War II and thereafter. And I'm going to have to go back and look. I don't know if I caught when he died. I know I when I was listening to it, I do, and it was late, so I do remember it was like he was Oh, like excommunicated from the church and then brought back in. See, he wouldn't go along with the communist regime as far as tearing down his chapel. They took the chapel away and he went with his little sister, his half sister, and recovered pieces of his parish and they rebuilt what they could. Or he was tearing down parts of it and he waited until the elder priest had left and then he stopped tearing it down. And that's, I think, how he got excommunicated. But it's really interesting if you're interested in uh, some of the implementation of what they're doing to people in our country right now and the psychological warfare and the different things going on towards people of faith, even though Catholics and what I call Christians is that's a whole different thing. But, you know, it doesn't mean they don't believe in God, but it does mean what God do they believe in. And it absolutely does. But that's, I can't, unless people research that, I can't really prove that to you. But and if you are Christian and you know Catholic, the Catholic religion, then you'll know the differences anyway. And I did share Lionel Nations yesterday, his link. He can explain all that to you perfectly. I could. I've done it several times. I'm not going into it again, but for a refresher for people, and I always like the refreshers too because they're great reminders of exactly what I'm fighting against is not something that looks like a demon with horns, but something that comes dressed like a beautiful angel, which that is just like that. The churches of Zion that I'm describing, you know? So the Zionist churches that are antichrist in the guise of saying they love Jesus, which is a lie, you know? Even if, you know what? Even if they love Satan, they still wouldn't do his bidding if they actually loved that spirit as a part of God, like they say they think they do. They'd still stand up for the what is would be his best interest as an entity and try and nurture that for the good of everybody and for that entity itself. But there's not those type of warriors out there, you know. I'm not suggesting that you make bargains with the devil. That's not what I'm talking about at all. But to just be able to distinguish the um, differences in your life, in yourself, what actually is good and what actually is bad, Like I was saying earlier, our hearts convict ourselves, and we don't need the Word of God is written on our hearts. They can say that the book, the scriptures, the Bible, is inspired by God. Yeah, the whole thing is twists and turns and everything else, but there's so much of the everything else that if you're not reading it with your heart and logic and common sense, you're going to just pick and choose, like cherry pick parts that go along with your narrative for your life. And you'll pick the church that goes along with that too. If you feel like you need a man to go into a cubicle with, or what do you call that? I do believe, I can't remember, But when you go confessional, it might as well be a cubicle, right, people? But um, Christ came so we could talk to God and learn how to communicate with God. And the rest of those are getting in the way of what you're actually meant. You're to seek the Father's face in everybody. That's seeking his face, you know. So I'm not going to let these psychological operations get me upset. I mean, I'm going to keep my eye on them, and I'm going to keep talking about them no matter who says what, because there are dangers out there, like I say, in people's personal lives on a daily basis concerning the very same issues that are being shown on the media, probably more often than any of us would like to see or admit. So yeah, there's like I say, men that actually beat women. Well, obviously they don't love women right there. I mean, and it is demeaning towards women to have men doing this, or women pretending they're men like that. That's they're insane. It's disturbing, but I'm not going to get angry over it. But like I said the other day, if these things reach the little people's ears and those babies are influenced into insanity and get thrown off track, I'll come at you know, verbally, you know, and hopefully politically. I mean, people want to bring politics into everything nowadays. Well, I say instead of the prisons being so overwhelmed and having to let criminals out, how about if we open up a more really in depth psychological, medically sound, checking into people's physical ailments, mental health care facilities again, and start taking care of people instead of like the state facilities did in the 70s, just letting all the loonies out in the public. That was not a good idea. We knew this one guy that had been chained under his parents' porch like a dog and fed dog food. His name was Arland, and he rented a room when he eventually got discovered as a child and got some help enough to where he was taught how to work. He was like a farm worker. He lived in a little room in this hotel. But people in this small town called Cambridge, Minnesota, would not leave this guy alone. And well, he ended up burning down the hotel he lived in. Nobody did die, luckily, but he was insane, you know, and he needed help. So, but I met him, and he was a really nice person. He was disturbed. Yeah, he was. There's no doubt. You know. But I mean, some people took soap and put it in a pillowcase and beat the living shit on him on Main Street of this place, a little bit, just a little bit away from where he lived. And that's when he like was able to crawl up to his room, from what I understand, and set the place on fire later. These were people that lived around him in that same place, so it was like people that had probably bullied him all through. He was, if I remember correctly, like about 30 years old then. He was older than me. But I gave him a ride somewhere one time when I was about 19 or so, maybe a little younger, maybe 17. I could have even been with somebody was might have been 15. But anyway, I met this character and he was a nice person. He just needed some emotional care and help. It's the same with a lot of non vets that I knew. These people needed emotional care. We know one guy, if you say the wrong word to him, he'll pick you up with one hand and put you above his head. And then you better hope that you're going to be okay. That's a non vet that we know. This is no. Oh, here's a good one. I heard no, that BLM um, challenged the Hells Angels and said they aren't going to do anything to be able to stop them. And they actually tried, I think it was in Oregon, tried whooping up on some Hells Angels, and BLM ended up running down the road. I'll tell you what, the ex president of the Hells Angels, Sonny, I think he's about 80 now, is still badass enough to whoop up on a whole gang of them. And they as far as I'm concerned, open their mouth to the wrong people. That's just my opinion from actually being their housekeeper and their dog sitter. And I know a lot of these people personally, and these people in BLM, you are not going to like the outcome because these people are monsters and they're really protective over America, believe it or not. The traditional, I'm not saying that there aren't groups of the Hells Angels that are half retarded and didn't do a whole lot of bad things. I'm saying there's ones that aren't. And that's a whole nother story you don't hear about. How they have groups that will go in and break down child trafficking rings and take those children out of danger. Those type of men and women. That's who I'm talking about. So I think the BLM opened up a can of worms that they aren't going to be able to put back on the bait shelf. You know, that's a bad mistake. Big time. So just my observations in life. Oh, there's filthier bikers out there. I mean, there's like the Grim Reapers, Beamers, different ones that are atrocious. Like a lot of other gangs can be pretty damn atrocious. But this is a whole nother class of human being. I'm talking about somebody that, first off, if you can afford a bike and the maintenance of it, and typically you have a garage and a house and you have a job, those type